Welcome to the Center Mid Philosopher. This episode is brought to you by Augustus Royale Fashion. Life's not black and white, it's gray, and gray is beautiful. Check out the brand below in the link. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first episode of the Center Mid Philosopher. My name's Matt Healy, and this is a show based around the world of soccer across the globe, as well as here domestically in America. Every week we will feature a guest, some of which I used to play with, some of which I didn't, fans, friends, all different sorts of folks, but all centered around the topic of soccer. And, you know, the passion behind the show is that I am a lifelong fan and player of the beautiful game, and it has come to shape how I view the world in a lot of ways. And I'm a lifelong center mid. And if any of you are familiar with soccer, you know, I've romanticized that position because, you know, it's not enough to just keep possession and just kind of be out there. You got to really impact the game. You got to put it on net. You got to set up others for success. You got to defend. You got to be a leader. And that's come to shape how I view business, relationships, art, science, you know, is to have a positive impact in the world and try to be a good person and take risks, give it a go. Each week we will talk to the guests about what's going on in the world of soccer today and in the near future. And then we'll learn a little bit about their playing history and get some great stories and how soccer has had an influence over their lives. And at each week, we'll have a fun recurring theme where we'll do our rapid fire questions at the end, and we will ask each guest a series of questions, and we'll keep tabs over these as the guests so that it'll maybe help settle some debates across the globe. And we'll ask every guest, you know, what's your favorite club in the world that you follow? Messi or Ronaldo? Messi or Maradona? Ronaldo or Ronaldo, as in Cristiano versus Il Fenomeno? Donovan or Dempsey? Favorite player of all time? Favorite center mid of all time? And to name their perfect 11 from any era. So we'll also ask every guest their favorite jersey of all time, because as you can see, I'm a bit of a jersey collector, much to the chagrin of my wife. I have to store these in the basement. But so for fun, I'll go ahead and give my, so Messi or Ronaldo, man, this one's a tough one, but I got to go Ronaldo, actually. I'm a Ronaldo guy.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Messi is arguably the best player of all time, but I'm a Ronaldo guy. I don't know why. If I got to take anyone into the foxhole with me and get it in the goal, I'm going Ronaldo in the big game.
I kind of lean that way too, Matt. My thing is, I think you can put Ronaldo on any team and he would have success. I think with Messi, although maybe that level a skosh higher at the highest of highs, I think the team has to be built around and accommodate him.
Yep.
Where I think Ronaldo's plug and play. That's my
well, it's
thought
very
on it.
Barca-centric with Messi. And now, of course, I know that I'm very cognizant that when we start tallying these of the many guests, I'm probably going to be on Messi's probably going to win that one. But still, you know, and he may have solidified it with the most recent World Cup victory, but I still think it's a debate that's fun to have. Messi or Maradona? I'm a Maradona guy. Again, I'm kind of dogging on Messi. He's one of my favorite of all time, but Maradona's who kind of made me fall in love with the game. And just Maradona to me is almost the perfect representation, as is Cantona, as is Zidane, as is Gattuso, as are a lot of these great center mids, in that, you know, he was an artist. He was like a rock star. And the Argentinians have deified him because of he was human. He put his heart on the field, and he imperfections and all. And I feel like his imperfections is kind of what made everyone love him, myself included. And see, he's a perfect representation of what this show's all about. Is that, hey, he wasn't perfect, but man, was he beautiful to watch. And he was sort of a representation of what this show's all about, for better or worse.
I would love to, just go to the streets of Buenos Aires or in Argentina somewhere and ask, because once Messi got the World Cup, that was kind of the one thing that was from that debate perspective. Can you imagine how big a star Maradona would be if he was around in his prime today?
Oh my God.
Just like with the antics and the it's Dennis Rodman meets Balotelli meets Messi. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Most of these, there's no wrong answer. I probably skosh out Messi. I watched him more. I'm going to default that way.
Sure. Well, and I got a little age on you. The other one would be Donovan or Dempsey. Actually, I skipped over Ronaldo, so Cristiano or Il Fenomeno. I got to go Cristiano. Again, the Brazilian Ronaldo, I mean, man, World Cup wise, and he did some of the things. But I think just longevity alone, Ballon d'Or. I mean, injuries play a role, but just Ronaldo's longevity and in doing it at Man U. I mean, there hasn't been he's arguably the best Man U player of all time, which I know is pretty inflammatory comment alone, but then doing it there, then at Real Madrid, and then it's not that long, but a pretty incendiary stint at Juventus, and now he's just continuing to go on. And I think there's still some great left in him. So that I got to go with that for him. What do you got?
I think you nailed it on the head. I think longevity gives you the tiebreaker. Interesting though, Mourinho calls Ronaldo, not Cristiano, but the other Ronaldo, calls him the most talented player he's ever coached. I think that's it's an interesting little tidbit. But yeah, I'm going Cristiano because of the longevity.
Yeah. Donovan or Dempsey, I'm going to go Donovan. Even though I love Dempsey and I feel like he's more my guy, more playing style wise, I think Donovan clutch moments. I think I got to lean Donovan, but who you got?
Man, that's close. So it's probably not his fault. And, it's probably some marketing thing. He probably didn't even think 2 cents about it. But with Landon Donovan, when we didn't make the World Cup, he was on this promotion that was like, Mexico is my other team.
Oh,
do you remember? And I'm just like, that just ripped my heart out.
I remember that.
And again, he probably didn't think about it for more than 30 seconds. I'm probably going Donovan too, but man, that one's close.
Yep.
That one's close.
Tough. Favorite player of all time, I'm going to go Cantona. Because again, a lot of these things are all about timing in life, and so Maradona is kind of what made me really start becoming fascinated with soccer. But Cantona was a little bit later, and more in my formative years is when I really wanted. That's when I started to really play a lot, and he was a player I really tried to emulate, not kicking fans in the head, but in terms of being a charismatic center mid, risk taker, leader, and I don't know. I'm just always kind of a Cantona guy. How about you?
If you asked me maybe 8 years ago, I'd probably lean Zidane or Ronaldinho. I feel like Ronaldinho made me fall in love with the game,
Sure.
but De Bruyne. I'm the biggest Kevin De Bruyne fan.
I love that.
Just watching him play, the passes he sees, I could keep on going, but gun to my head, I think I go De Bruyne.
That's a killer choice, and he is one of my favorites now too. And I'm who I watch. I'm so player driven. Anytime he's on, I watch. And I remember years ago when Belgium was playing, and Eden Hazard and Lukaku and all these guys were getting all this hype, and I felt like no one was talking about De Bruyne back then. I was like, this guy's far and away the best player on the court, on the field, and so I love that choice. Favorite center mid of all time. So I'm kind of gonna contradict myself because I just said Cantona, but favorite center mid, like just the true embodiment of everything a center mid should be, and all the weird, mercurial, enigmatic ways of him is Zidane. I mean, he just was poetry in motion, and just man, what a thrill to watch. And so yeah, I would say my favorite center mid of all time has got to be Zidane.
I'm right there with you. You know, he makes it's beautiful to watch people that make the game look very easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, casual just watching, you know, I don't think they know exactly what goes into it, but man, the grace, just he could do it all, right? Like he could play the 10, the 8, the 6, be the best in the world at it. I tend to agree with you. I think that would be my selection as well.
Nice, solid. So my perfect 11 of all time. So I'm gonna go.
You want to go back and forth? You want to do the defenders? I'll do my defenders, and we can just
Yeah.
Sure, let's do that.
Love it. So I'll do goalie. So my goalie would be Peter Schmeichel from the Great Dane, and of all those great glory years of Ferguson at Man U. He'd be my goalie. How about you?
I went Buffon. Just longevity. I mean, you know, again, there's no wrong answers here, but I think smoothest, longest, you know, success internationally, club level. That'd probably be my pick.
Yeah, that's probably the most correct answer to that question. Iker Casillas could probably be up there as well in terms of that. Just in terms of like career. And again, you talk about longevity. Buffon, there's no topping that. Defenders, so I'll name my back line. I'm going to go Stuart Pearce at center back, actually, Psycho, as they called him. Just happened to hit that guy at the right point in my life when I was becoming a testosterone-filled teenager, and he would bite your ear off quite literally in those crazy years of England with Gascoigne and Ian Wright and, you know, Bruce, but yeah, he was just a maniac and was also really, really good. Then, you know, quite possibly my favorite player of all time, even regardless of position, left back Paolo Maldini. You know, he went up against the best and shut him down, and I don't know, 25 some years at AC Milan, just the epitome of Italian defender. And then I'll go kind of an atypical choice for right back, even though it's kind of a bit of a loophole because technically he did used to play right back quite a bit, especially for France, would be Franck Ribéry. Sort of just talk about electric, pace, tough, just loved everything about him, and he's just kind of a deep cut favorite of mine. How about you?
Yeah, good selections there. So we have the same left back.
Yeah.
I had Maldini as well. By the way, I was working on this last night. This is next to impossible.
Oh yeah.
This is so hard. This is so hard to pick. Oh yeah. So I got Maldini. Funny enough, I think center backs were the hardest position for me.
Yeah.
I went with Puyol.
Sure.
You know, I just think epitomizes the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy man. You know, shoot. Him flying at you's got to make you feel some type of way.
Yep.
So I went Puyol. And then that second center back, I mean, there's so many names that are just exquisite players. But I went Sergio Ramos.
Sure.
Again, I think the success that he's had, I probably watched him the most.
Yep.
So I kind of lean that way.
Yep.
And then that last outside back position, I went Lahm from Bayern and all his days. Could play anywhere on the field, center mid. You know what Pep did with him was incredible. But that rounds out my back four.
Yeah, he's up there for me, Lahm in particular. And you know, again, my back is three because I'm very attacking focused. So I heavy loaded on the midfield as apropos to the name of the show. So here's my 5 midfielders. So my formation is sort of a 3-5-2. Whereas, you know, many would go 4-4-2 or, you know, many other formations. But so my Defensive center mid, I'm going Zidane. Again, that's kind of a cheat code a little bit, sneaking him in there because he's typically more of your center mid or your attacking center mid. But I'm trying to fit as many center mids in as I can, as clearly. Center mid, I'm going Cantona. Again, just, one of my all-time favorites. And this is also a lot of interesting characters and personality traits on the field. Attacking center mid, I'm going to go Maradona at that kind of number 10 position. Left mid, again, probably one of my all-time favorite players is Ryan Giggs, the best left mid, in my opinion, to ever play. And then right mid, again, I'm very heavy on the Man U here of that specific era, as Beckham. Beckham, it's funny, he doesn't get, I feel like he's become more of a, this show pony, but he was a great player. And if you want a right mid, he's probably one of the best right mids to ever play the game. He did what a right mid should do, which is get it down the flank, cross it in. He's also one of the best free takers that ever played. And a lot of people forget he finished runner-up to Thierry Henry for World Player of the Year there once. And so, again, this is very team-centric. Is Beckham one of the best 11 players to ever play the game? No. But if you're building a team and you need a right mid, I'm going David Beckham. Who you got for your midfield?
Good selections. I switched it up a little bit. I went for like a 4-3-3.
Sure.
I had Zidane, again, a little bit of cheat code, right? I have him holding. He'd get more forward, obviously. But I stuck him at CDM. Makaleli, I was like so close to putting him instead, but how do you not have Zidane on your team? Like you said, cheat code. In front of them, rocking with the 4-3-3, I took Xavi and Iniesta.
Sure.
I know, it's like salt and pepper. You kind of need them both a little bit for the full everything. But I think when they were playing, on those Barcelona teams, just how good they were, the best for so long.
Yeah.
And now you hear players coming up, he's the next Xavi, next Iniesta, like Pedri, Gavi from Barcelona. They try to emulate that. But them together, that kind of rounds out my three.
Yeah, those two in tandem are arguably the best center midfield tandem of all time. I mean, Modric, Cruz are certainly up there, and there's some others as well. But it's pretty tough to beat Xavi and Iniesta. Again, unfortunately, I wish I could squeeze some more players in, but I'm only got two left for up top, so I'm going to go Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo at the top. It kills me. I literally almost lost sleep last night that I wasn't able to get Dennis Bergkamp in there somehow, because he's another all-time favorite, and I'm sort of cheating by even mentioning him, but here I am. But yeah, I got to go Messi or Ronaldo up top.
Talk about a frightening front two.
Yeah.
I went with Messi out on a wing, Ronaldo on the other wing, and then I went with Fenomeno Ronaldo in the middle. Think about that. Think about what they look on the field together. But that rounds out my 11.
Maybe we'll see it one day with Inter Miami.
Maybe so. Yeah. It's definitely in the cards.
They just need to give them ownership.
Definitely in the cards. I think we have our guest coming up, so looking forward to getting into that. And let's get into it.
Awesome. Well, folks, let me thank Eddie Robinson, old friend, old teammate, guy. I've played with some incredible players, some of the best in the country. Probably a dozen or so MLS players, and I definitely saved the best for first with Eddie Robinson. Without question, the best I ever shared the field with. And remember, probably the first time I ever played against you was, and unfortunately I had to play against you a lot because I was either on JV or the younger old Buccaneers, for those that don't know. We used to call them Bucks Blue, Bucks Red, and I was always on the younger, so the legend was growing when I was about 11. And then in the high school days, Page High School, Greensboro, North Carolina, believe we were second in the nation at one point in time, led in large part by Eddie, and of course everyone on that team was lights out good. but you used to have your thing was you were the OG sweeper. You're known as a center back, but I still think of you as the sweeper that would get it in the back and just dribble through the entire team and score like a hot knife cutting through butter. And those were playing against some of the best players in the state, and you did that with ease. So that was definitely something that I had not seen replicated before or since. And then you went on to have a stellar career at UNC Chapel Hill. Go Heels! I'm a Tar Heel as well, and we played for the same coach, Elmar Bolowich, and a lot of the same players, Logan Pauls, Grant Porter, many others. And you went on to have an incredible MLS career, winning 4 championships, 2 with San Jose Earthquakes, 2 with Houston Dynamo, MLS All-Star in 2006, playing against Chelsea, the likes of Shevchenko, Lampard, Drogba, Crespo. Was Crespo on that team?
I don't believe so. If he was, I don't remember him actually being there.
Sure. Well, that's the Chelsea way, right? They keep their they book him.
Lampard. Don't forget Lampard.
Terry, and coached by the special one, chosen one, Mourinho, and then was named MLS All-11 in 2007. MLS first runner-up of the Defender of the Year, right behind Michael Parkhurst, which was incredible. North Carolina Soccer Hall of Fame inductee in 2013, and of course going back to the days, all South, all conference, all state, the accolades could go on and on and on, and we could fill the entire time with those. But and I also love that you still hold the record for yellow cards in the Dynamo, which is awesome.
Actually, I don't.
Oh, you got
actually Ricardo Clark.
Oh, nice. Me, yeah.
But it took 6 years after I retired for him to catch it.
Nice. He's a great player. He was a great player too. Well, we'll still claim that one for you. And then you played for the full men's national team, scoring a goal against Sweden, which is amazing. So, thank you for coming on. I'm so pumped.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm appreciated. I'm flattered. Given the amount of time I've been away from the game and playing, it's always fun to reminisce and talk about the way things used to be versus how they are now, and looking forward to it.
And that's exactly what I want to get into. And your legend still lives on strong in the halls of Page High School and in North Carolina and Chapel Hill. So, and I know in Houston, you've made a real name for yourself and being such a great member of the community there. I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to your brother and your parents as well. Chris, Eddie's brother, is still to this day one of my favorite people in the world. Actually used to live right down the street from me, and was a great player himself. Goalie, great collegiate career, pro, great academy coach. So I want to give a shout out to Chris as well. And your folks were giving their blood, sweat, and tears to the community, always at some super hot, sweaty table in a sea of 100 fields, giving their time to help elevate the game in our community. So I want to give a shout out to them as well. But want to just get into some of the events of the world of soccer right now, and we will weave back into some anecdotes in your playing history, but just the world of soccer right now. U.S. soccer team, getting right into it. Who do you think should be the next head men's national coach for the U.S. team?
That's a tough one. Everybody wants a big European name. Can the U.S. afford it? Most likely. Mm-hmm. Is it more attractive to, let's say, a Jose Mourinho or someone like that now than it was 10 years ago? Absolutely. But it takes a very special individual to understand the mentality of the American player, because it's still not what it is overseas.
Right.
These kids in the United States, they are coddled and they are praised even to this day. It was worse years ago, but it's still the case now, where if they're not front and center getting a pat on the back for everything they do, they have a tough time mentally. And that's not something that these big time international coaches are going to do. So you're going to have to find someone and this is maybe where Greg Berhalter faltered a little bit, because once he left the University of North Carolina,
Yep.
another Tar Heel,
That's right.
he went overseas and played in Germany. And I mean, outside of Eastern Europe, I mean, the mentality in Germany is you either make it or you don't. Nobody cares about your feelings.
No, yeah,
You got to win games.
as
Nobody
evidenced
cares.
by Elmar, right? Yeah.
Yeah, oh my gosh! If I had a nickel for every time he cussed at me, I'd be doing this from a dock in Aruba or something.
Me too. Me too. I mean,
I don't have a preference. I just think that now the way that the American players are spread out between the United States, now you've got a few that are flirting with Mexico, Europe, that it's going to take a special person to bring them all together for one goal and one cause. And there's always going to be people that are going to complain, well, this person shouldn't be, this person should be, this, that, and the other. And while I am very excited about the interest level in the United States about the game of soccer and how it's grown, I still think there are far, far too many people who are still not knowledgeable enough about the game,
right,
that want to come out. And, I'm an honest person. I'm going to tell you like it is. I'm going to tell you have no idea what you're talking about if you come to me with some crap.
Right.
And I don't have a problem, having been on television and analyzing the game to viewers for years. I don't have a problem sitting down and saying, you're wrong, this is right, why you're wrong.
Right.
I disagree with you. Now, that's the great thing about the United States of America. We can all disagree and still get along and still love the game. So as far as the U.S. coach goes, I don't know. I'm worried about the United States right now because there's a little over 1,000 days till the next World Cup. And they don't have a director of soccer operations in place. They don't have a GM in place. They've been saying that they've got to get those positions filled first so that they can make the decision. And, you can look at it one of two ways. Okay, you're doing your due diligence, or the really higher ups in U.S. soccer don't want to be responsible if that next hire is a failure.
Right.
So
we got to get going because we're hosting.
Yeah, exactly. And, for everyone that watched that game against Mexico last night, the 1-1 draw in Glendale, the first half, I thought the U.S. was average. Again, they didn't have many of their best players.
Sure.
Maybe any of them, when you look at the McKinneys and then Tyler Adams and Giovanni Reyna and all of these guys that make such a difference and such an impact, that just see the game quicker, that react to the game quicker.
Right.
And there's a genuine level that has developed between the best American players who are playing in Europe and the best American players who are still playing in Major League Soccer. Jordan Morris is having himself a fantastic season.
Yeah, he had a great assist last night.
Hopefully he can stay healthy. But as far as the rest of the group goes, Walker Zimmerman's been good. I still confused by the Sean Johnson thing. Yeah. That makes no sense to me.
Right.
But, I mean, Serginho Dest has fallen off.
I know.
It's almost like he got to Barcelona and decided, hey, I've made it. Now I'm just going to chill and lay back. And hasn't played at AC Milan since January, I believe it is.
Yep.
So, he's got some big things coming up, because if he doesn't get regular game minutes leading up to World Cup qualifying and leading up to the next World Cup, he's probably going to find himself on the outside looking in. So, with the U.S. national team, it's so complicated. And the best thing that the fans can do right now is just support everything that's going on, support the players, go a little easy on the criticism, let U.S. Soccer Federation get things sorted out, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always torn. I lean towards you, and I just think that the American athlete, for better or worse, is extremely unique. And again, you and I played for Elmar, and I've never played better, but boy, were Elmar and the American teenager not exactly a match made in heaven. And I'm not saying he was wrong. We do have a bit of an ego, but there is something unique to it. And I was a big a fan as Klinsmann as anyone, but then, I mean, that was just a massive disconnect. And, So I lean very much towards, I think it needs to probably be an American-based coach that's born and bred in America. But then I get tempted with the names like Vieira and Thierry Henry. Then I get excited again, and am I making the same thought mistake where with Klinsmann? Is that, what do you have any thoughts on those two guys? Or I mean,
I think that their futures, any coaching that Thierry Henry does will be in Europe from here, at least for the foreseeable future. I mean, he's got a great gig doing the television pregame shows and postgame shows with CBS for Champions League.
Yep.
Patrick Vieira is another one that I think his foreseeable future is in the United States. One name that has come up a lot and in the background is Peter Vermees.
Oh, yeah, he'd be great.
For as good as his Kansas City teams have been for over a decade, maybe it's time for a new challenge for him.
Yeah.
And I think the players, I know that players respond to him very well, and he knows how to manage egos.
Yeah,
Some guys need a little more coddling. Some guys don't. And I will certainly say, and you talked about Omar and his demeanor and how he treated players. If it weren't for him making my life really difficult and making me own up to mistakes and, take responsibility for when I messed up, but at the same time instilling a certain amount of focus in order to make that leap, because while the gap has closed between college and MLS, it's still quite big. Not as big as it was when I left college back in 2001. But, if it weren't for Elmore, I wouldn't be mentally tough enough. I mean,
of course.
There's too many participation trophies going around today.
That's right.
Everybody wants to say, hey, I'm going to be a professional baseball player or a basketball player or a football player, now a soccer player. I mean, no, you're probably not, because you're not held accountable. Accountability is everything when it comes to professional sports, because you got to think about the fans, how much money they're spending just to come to a game, just to come to all home games, buy a season ticket. You got to think about the ownership and how much money they have to spend just to open the stadium on game days. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes that most people just don't see and don't recognize. And if you're not winning or if you're not playing consistently well, there's another guy that will replace you. No problem. And nobody's going to feel bad for you.
Right.
And that's just the way it is. And that's the way the successful teams are.
That's right.
So, in every sport, you look at Tom Brady, and he always had guys like that around him. You look at the San Jose teams I played on and the early Houston Dynamo teams, and we moved to Houston. I tell people to this day that we were a group of misfits who would smash your teeth down your face and score some goals while we were doing it. We didn't care.
Right.
We were going to win games.
Yeah.
And we were mean, and that was instilled by Dominic Kinnear and Frank Gallup and our coaching staffs.
Yeah.
And now, everybody thinks it's sexy to play total football and build out of the back. Well, sometimes you've got to dictate the way that you play based on the players that you have. There are different ways to be successful in soccer at every single level.
That's right.
Now, in a perfect world, starting at 8 years old, kids are learning the fundamentals of building out of the back, of 1 and 2 touch, and all of these things that are so important as you get older. Speed of play, counterattacking, being compact defensively, all of these different principles. But it's still, you think about it, how old is baseball in the United States? It started in the late 1800s.
Right.
So, soccer really only probably caught on back in, the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, we were on the forefront.
It really
of that.
started. And back then it was the kids that were interested in the game saying, Mom and Dad, take me to the game. Now, as that generation has grown up, now it's mom and dad saying, hey, son, daughter, come with me to the game.
Right.
I want to get you involved with this passion that I have. But we're still years and years, decades maybe even, from getting to that point. So it's so nuanced, and there's so many small factors that play into everything that you have to be able to adapt. You have to be willing to adapt. It can't just be my way or the highway. And that's the way it was with Jurgen Klinsmann. You see that, you saw that with Thomas Tuchel. You still see it today. He's struggling at Bayern Munich.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's, you start to look at who are the successful coaches in European soccer. Well, they're willing to adapt and to whatever circumstances they need to for their teams to be successful. Diego Simeone, when you look at Atletico Madrid in the time that he's been there, he completely turned that around.
Absolutely.
In Europe, what's guaranteed death taxes in a Spanish team in the UEFA Europa League finals, right? With the exception of Real Madrid or Barcelona, who are always, near or at the semifinals or finals of the Champions League. But a lot of the coaches and the successful coaches are willing to adapt. And you see that now, the younger coaches and the younger generation, they're willing to do that. Julian Nagelsmann, I was shocked when he got fired from Bayern Munich. That was a complete shock to me because it wasn't like he wasn't doing well.
Right.
So I was a bit surprised there. He's just chilling. He's got a guaranteed contract for a few more years, and anybody that wants him is going to have to spend a boatload. It doesn't seem like Todd Bowley has a problem doing that at Chelsea, but there's more to it with Chelsea, and that's a whole nother story.
That's right. Did you need something?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in real quick. So we don't want to give Bruce Arena a third shot at it. Are we good on that?
I don't think Bruce wants one, to be honest. I think Bruce is very content now.
Yeah, no.
I think he's content. I think he played his part, and we needed that. We needed a personality like Bruce Arena.
Sure.
The players loved him. Behind the scenes, the guys loved him. He would joke around, in meal rooms and stuff.
He seemed like great. the players' coach, if you will, just outside looking in. But I'm gonna throw a name out. Probably a little hotter name. Say 6 months ago or so, not the most successful stint at Leeds, but I think Jesse Marsch needs to get some consideration.
Yeah, for sure.
Proven in Europe, good style of play, obviously has an affinity for a lot of the guys, a lot of the same guys, but that's one I would throw out. And we talked about Dest earlier. I think it's pretty clear that Dest and Pulisic need to move pretty bad this summer to kind of propel their games forward. But I just want to chime in real quick.
Absolutely. Eddie, I want to, one of the things I want to hear some great stories about is, we're talking a lot about how, we were kind of at the infancy of soccer in America. And as you mentioned, we still sort of are. We're very much in the beginning of that. Like, we're now, I watched the Man City Bayern game and Chelsea Real Madrid with my kids, and then we watched El Tráfico together as well. The LAFC LA Galaxy route, and I'm really trying to get them into MLS. But you were not on that very first class with Tab Ramos, Eric Winalda, Harks, and those guys with the MLS, but you were right there, like right behind it, as a pioneer of the MLS. And I've read stories about how just kind of punk rock it was back then, in that you're kind of building the airplane as you're flying it in those early days. And if you had any kind of stories to illustrate that, you hear stories of guys having to train on the side of a high school track, or that might be a little bit hyperbole, but and you touched on when you guys moved to Houston, how you guys literally went out and shook hands, kissed babies, did stuff in the community, and hey, come watch us play. Just kind of any anecdotes of the early days of the MLS, how you guys were really just fighting paycheck to paycheck to kind of where it is now with the operations in the soccer specific stadiums. And if you could share any kind of cool early days stories, and then kind of how you're seeing it progress today.
Well, now if you're coming in from out of town, it's rare that you see guys playing professionally in their hometown. So you've got to find housing. Nowadays, the clubs are very, very good about helping players with that. When I was drafted to San Jose in 2001, there was another kid out of North Carolina who was actually a junior. So he left a year early. His name was Chris Carrieri.
Oh, yeah.
Was drafted to San Jose as well. And we were told, here's your paycheck. And you look at it and you're like, that's it? Okay, well, I love this game, so I'm going to do it anyway. now you got to find a place to live.
Right.
We each had a bedroom in a 4-bedroom home that was owned by a Filipino family. It was
Awesome.
2 daughters and a mother. The mother had gone back to the Philippines. She was there for very long extended stays because her mother was a bit sick. Well, they had a huge family. If you know anything about the Filipino culture, they had a huge family. They get together whenever they can. They have barbecues. You know, I was told repeatedly, you want to work the grill, you can eat for free. Okay, no problem. They were great, but you know, living in San Jose in Silicon Valley in the early 2000s, I mean that was the most expensive part of the country.
Yeah.
You scrap to get by, and then you know, you get to the locker room on the first day, and the locker room is 2 double wide trailers attached with 8 showers, but only 2 of them had hot water.
Wow.
And then
I love it.
In order to train, you had to get in the car and drive 25 minutes to a junior college.
Yeah.
And the rookies had to carry all the gear, balls, cones, bibs, mannequins, all of it. We had to carry it all. So I'd pile it all in the back of my trunk and drive to and from every day.
Wow.
With all the gear. So I had to be the first one there because the older guys were ready to get going as soon as they got out there. Play a little 5v2 till the coaches got there and started training properly.
Mm-hmm.
So that was tough, but we played on a small field at the University of San Jose State or San Jose State University,
mm-hmm.
whichever direction you want to say it. And that was a fortress for us. I mean, we I think it was the 2005 season. We went the entire season. We didn't lose a game at home.
Yep.
We were pretty much unbeatable there.
Y'all were sick.
And that was fun. And that was great. And then, you know, we hear that we're moving to Houston.
Right.
And at the end of 2005, we won the Supporter Shield in 2005. So
right.
Needless to say, our fan base in San Jose was a bit upset.
Right.
But it just wasn't sustainable. And at the time, Phil Anschutz, who owns Anschutz Entertainment Group, also owned the LA Galaxy. And yep. I don't remember if he owned one other team at the time. And Major League Soccer was trying to get away from that. Mm-hmm. So he felt the best way to do that was to get the team out of there and get it somewhere else. So mm-hmm. sure enough, we show up in Houston.
Yep.
Well, first day of training, we're training on the same field that the women's college team plays at the University of Houston, and we're sharing the stadium with the University of Houston football team. Mm-hmm. So when fall would come around, there were certain Saturdays, if we were playing on a Sunday, we would have to change out of the women's softball locker room, which was next to our training field. And, you know, Sunday we'd walk into the locker room pregame and there'd be dip spit and chaw spit all over the walls. And, you know, there were cats living in the ceilings, and it was an absolute crap hole, but it was our crap hole.
Right.
Our fans loved it, and we sold it out all the time. Mm-hmm. And like you said, we were ambassadors of the sport to the community of Houston. And mm-hmm. for as culturally diverse as it was, especially for, you know, the Hispanic and the Central American community, the African community, and, you know, even to this day, there's a lot of Scandinavians who work in oil and gas, and there's a lot of headquarters, or at least North American headquarters here inside of Houston. For them to get to see some actual decent soccer in the United States, who would have ever thought? Mm-hmm. On top of the fact that these guys are personable, mm-hmm. and we were able to create bonds and relationships with people. So they're not just coming to the game mm-hmm. to watch and hope we win. They're coming to the game and say, I know Eddie Robinson. I know Brad Davis. I met him. So they become invested in you personally.
Yep.
So they're wishing not just for team success, but for your own personal success.
Yeah.
These are great guys. I mean, you know, I want my kid to meet this person. I want my kid to grow up mm-hmm. and be like this person. Be humble, but be good at a sport, or be good job, career, or career path they choose. And that's something that I will always be proud of.
That's awesome.
And now you just look at the money that's in it now, and the new deal with Apple Television,
yep.
you know, billion-something dollars over 10 years,
yeah.
broadcast all the games. I mean, gosh, I look at it now and I go back and I think about what I was making for at least the first half of my career.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about what I could make now. I mean,
I know it's hard to not.
My gosh.
Well,
my gosh.
Thanks for being for carrying the torch. And
it was fun. It was worth it. It was worth it. And a lot of trips, CONCACAF Champions League to Honduras and El Salvador and Costa Rica, and being on a bus in the Costa Rican mountains, getting stuck in the middle of the jungle, and the bus driver saying, "Don't get off. There's leopards and stuff in the mountains here. Don't get off the bus."
Yeah, and I remember there were some stories that I heard about the fans in Honduras, San Salvador, and then some legendary battles with Pachuca. Could you recall any of those? There was one about getting to one stadium where you had to be barricaded in. If you could tell us that one, that would be awesome.
We went. There was, of all the trips we went on one trip to San Salvador. And on this particular trip, we had to take a security guard with us that rode on the bus with us. I mean, he was ex-Special Forces, I believe. Always had some kind of weapon on him. We got to the hotel from the airport when we got there, and he said, "Don't leave the hotel, because everyone here has a gun. And when shooting starts, the cops run the other direction." So that set a pretty good tone right off the bat for us. Intimidation factor. So we get to the stadium. We're there. We train that evening or afternoon. They won't turn the lights on for us at the stadium because apparently one person said they can't really afford it, which is what I believe more than, hey, they're not letting us turn the power on because they're trying to conserve power. I don't know. Whatever. So we're training in the dark. We get to the stadium the next day, and the routine is you get to the stadium, guys start falling off the bus.
Right.
Just get up, get off the bus.
No big deal. Right.
And the security guard stands up and says, "Hold on a second, sit back down." So we sit back down, and there's this metal gate about 30 yards just off to our front right. And it's barely wide enough for a human to squeeze through. That gate opens, and out comes about 40 police officers in full riot gear with shields on. I'm like, what is going on here? And sure enough, as soon as we start getting off the bus, there's batteries, bags of urine, and coins, and just stuff flying from the top of the stadium.
That's bonkers.
Just you have to be some kind of psycho to be like, yes, come get some.
Man.
Right? I mean, a lot of guys would just be like, oh man, this is scary. And then we're in Mexico City one time, and we're playing, and we get on the bus, and we're looking around like, why aren't we leaving? Well, we got to wait for the police escort. So, some cities you would always have a police car escort, but it would be a police car and maybe 2 motorcycles. Well, this time in Mexico City, it was 4 large, kind of like, I don't want to say 18-wheelers, but open-topped, military vehicles with guys sitting in the back with ARs and shotguns.
It's a little disconcerting.
There are police cars and, lights everywhere. So it's like, guys, don't we want to not draw attention to ourselves?
Yeah, good Lord. That's crazy, man.
It's ridiculous. And I mean, it was a wild ride, but it was a lot of fun. It was a whole lot of fun getting to go to all those places and just seeing the culture there. The one last one I'll tell you is we were playing, I don't remember if it was the quarterfinals or the semifinals of CONCACAF, and we were playing 2-leg against Pachuca, and the first game was at home, and we won 2-0.
Wow.
So we had to go down there, and right off the bat, they scored 2 goals. And then I think we tied it up, and it got to the point where it was 4-4, and it goes to overtime. And right before overtime, and there was away goals, right? So we were up on away goals.
Oh, nice.
All we had to do was win that game. So they end up winning regulation 4-2. And once we get to overtime, Brian Ching, who's one of the best finishers, especially with his head that I've ever played with,
one of the best,
misses a sitter to win the game for us. And that would have made it 5-4. But then they come down and score. Just this guy named Christian Jimenez, who was unbelievable player, scores, and they beat us 5-4. But the thing that really stood out about that game is the organization there they said, we're not charging people to get into this game. All the tickets are free.
Oh my
You
God.
just be there come warm-ups.
Wow.
So we walk out onto the field. It's completely quiet, but the stadium is full.
Man.
Then all of a sudden, they are yelling every disgusting thing they can possibly think of in English at us. And it was a bit intimidating. It was definitely a bit intimidating. And that, there's nothing that, anyone that lives in Mexico or south of Mexico hates more than losing to an American team in soccer, because that's the one thing that they've always had on us.
That's right.
The respect is finally starting to grow a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you saw it at the end of the game last night. The United States versus Mexico. There's a little bit more respect for the American teams, for the American players. But, that's the one thing that they take so much pride in is their history and their culture and the quality of their teams. I still think we're a little bit behind Mexico as far as the club level, but we're catching up and closing ground real fast.
Yeah, well, you were, talk about macheting through the woods with no compass. You guys were almost literally doing that. So that's incredible, and thank you for sharing those, because I love it. I love everything about it, and I'm just pumped that I could say that I used to play with you, that you were there for that. And one last thing, and you just kind of touched on it before we kind of get to the fun rapid fire questions, is the academies. And this one is near and dear to my heart because my sons now are playing, and my oldest one played academy and didn't have the best experience. My younger one is playing now for the Fusion, and Dan, to the one who brought you, it's been a really positive experience. And I know you've had some academy experience. What are your thoughts on the current landscape of the academy system in America, and the ECNL meshed with that, and versus what we came up with the more classic club system? And a more pointed question for you on it is kind of get back to the original thing of like the U.S. coaches. I sometimes feel like we have over Europeanized the academy system maybe too far, in that we're forcing a lot of kids to pick soccer only really young, and therefore taking the American athlete out of the American athlete, which is that, as you've alluded to, we all used to play baseball, basketball, soccer, football, tennis. Or do you think, no, we're on the right path, this is how you got to do it? I just fear that sometimes for every Pulisic, you're going to lose 3 or 4 other great athletes because they're going, well, I still want to continue to play baseball and basketball too. Because a lot of we're losing a lot of kids in that 4th, 5th, 6th grade, where it's like, all right, you're going to start practicing 3 or 4 days a week, and that's it. And I'm going through it right now. My son plays AAU basketball, and there's a kid that's a great athlete, and he's really being forced. Do you want to play basketball or soccer at like 4th or 5th grade? I just kind of wondered your thoughts on that. Like, do you prefer it the way it was when we were coming along, where you kind of made that choice a little bit later? Or you think, no, that's how we got to do it to compete, internationally? Or do you prefer a little bit more of a hybrid?
Well, this is where I really do believe that the parents have to be more involved in helping the kids make those decisions.
Yeah.
Because if you look, I would have given anything to get up 5 days a week, go to school early in the morning, right next to the field that I train on, and train every single day. That's what they do everywhere else in the world.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
That's what they do. And, there's so many aspects to this. I believe that the American Academy system has gotten about as far as it's going to get without solidarity payments. And for those that aren't familiar with solidarity payments, these are payments that clubs make to smaller clubs. So let's say you grew up in Greensboro and you played for the Buccaneers.
Right.
Well, if you were sold to,
Charlotte,
let's start off with a team in Norway.
Oh, sure.
And you played 3 years in Norway. Well, they're going to pay the team that you grew up, that developed you, a certain amount of money, a certain percentage. And then let's say Borussia Dortmund comes in and buys you for $20 million. Well, your youth club is going to get a portion of that transfer fee. And in the United States, there are issues regarding child labor laws that the U.S. Soccer Federation is trying to work out. We've seen numerous
Weston McKinney
lawsuits in the United States in the recent years with DeAndre Yedlin and Clint Dempsey and some of these other guys that went to Europe.
and nobody got
until
anything.
that happens, you could have the best team in the state, the best academy team in the Southeast. Let's say it's Atlanta United or Miami FC or Houston Dynamo. Right now, it's probably still FC Dallas.
Right.
Or you look at what Philadelphia Union has done. I mean, they've constantly got teenagers in their lineup.
Oh yeah.
And there's a smaller club, and this kid who's the best player in that small club, his dad's the coach. So he's got to play for that team, where he would be much more benefited by going to this larger club. There's not a lot of cooperation because his dad knows that if he wants to continue to make a paycheck, he's got to win games. The parents aren't going to be happy if he doesn't. And the fact that his son scores a hat trick every game, well, then he's going to keep his job.
That's right.
Now, if solidarity payments come into the mix, all of a sudden, okay, Philadelphia Union say, we're going to give you $250,000. You can put that back into your development program, and all of a sudden,
changes the tune a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I really do
100%.
believe that until that becomes standard and norm, there's always going to be this infighting with the different leagues around the United States and youth. And you mentioned it, ECNL, US Youth Soccer, the US Soccer Federation, all of these different ones vying to be the best. And then you've got the academies that have come in, and I know that the Dynamo Academy was not welcomed when they came in with all the good teams and good clubs in Houston. They didn't want to lose their players.
No, and there's a geographical challenge as well in America that's not as much there, especially in Europe, and in that, like, we have to do that solidarity payment thing because, I mean, there just aren't but so many places that people can get to play for those academies. So they really have to be incentivized. In fact, a guy that babysits for our sons, actually is Adam Duggan's son. He's a killer goalie, and I was saying, we're going to go to high school. You can go to Page, and he's like, I'm actually might move to Charlotte, play for Charlotte FC. I was like, wow, man, like, this is cool. This is happening. But that's sort of doable. But what about the people what about the athlete in middle of nowhere for West Virginia or South Carolina that's a 6-hour trip to the MLS Academy team? Without that solidarity payment, you're the amount of athletes that we're probably getting 3%, or maybe a little more than that. But we need to open the floodgates so that all the best of the best of the best can get there and are motivated to do so. And I think the solidarity payments is a big thing. So
it is, and then residency program.
Yeah.
To where the kids are living on site, they're away from mom and dad. They're maturing at younger ages.
Yeah, it's like a boarding
school. They are going to school, but because there still has to be a backup plan. And that's one of the things that when I was working with the Dynamo Academy, I came in and spent some time, and I was talking with my boss, and he mentioned, I feel bad because these kids come in 10 months a year, give us 5 days of their life. They might be driving an hour each way every single time. And if they're not good enough to play professionally, we tap them on the back and say, thanks a lot, see you later. I mean, I started an academic mentoring program here with the Houston Dynamo program. They've since nixed it and scrapped it, which makes no sense to me. But
bummer.
There's been, a lot of changes to leadership here in Houston. It does my head in sometimes. We would pair kids with people in the community that were doctors or lawyers or teachers or accountants. People that had knowledge and background that would help these kids pick their classes based on what they could see themselves doing if it wasn't soccer, and setting up SAT prep tests and prep classes and taking the SATs and applying for financial aid and all of these things that would become so important, because we were lucky if there were 2 guys that even got to train with the Dynamo back then. It's still pretty rough and tumble now, but you look at teams like FC Dallas, you look at teams like Salt Lake, who has their residency program, the Philadelphia Union, are doing a fantastic job.
Yeah,
The LA Galaxy, all of these clubs now that are really focused on that youth element and developing players, because it's a huge thing that a lot of people don't understand, is that if you bring up a player from your academy, you can sign him to a 3-year contract and he's not going to hit any cap space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So you can pay him 150 grand, 200 a year, and that doesn't come away from your salary cap. So you can afford to get the better players, and you can mesh and mingle and figure out how to be the best team possible, but still keep some homegrown talent in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a problem for a lot of MLS teams still.
Well, I love that, and that's tons of great ideas, and you gave me exactly what I wanted there. I mean, I'm with you all the way, and I mean that there's probably not a thing I'm more passionate about than getting the best talent we can in soccer. I mean, I literally, even on my son plays AAU, I'm out there recruiting some of those kids, being like, hey, I'm not saying don't play basketball. I'm saying just play soccer too. You know, like we got to get more, we got to open the floodgates. We got to start thinking creatively. And, well, hey, I want to jump to the fun rapid fire. We could talk for days, and I wish we could. But want to get to the fun rapid fire questions. So first, outside of the MLS, who's your favorite club that you follow?
You know, I don't have one. I don't have one, but I am a soccer junkie. No matter what's on during the course of the week, the weekends, I'm up at 6 o'clock here in Houston. If I was in California, I'd be up at 4 a.m. watching the Manchester Derby, or, you know, Barcelona play Real Madrid, or Dortmund play against Bayern Munich,
right,
or, you know, the Milan Derby, any of it. I'm watching all of it. Any international World Cup qualifying. All of it. I don't have a favorite team. I just like watching good soccer.
That's so me too. I feel like, and that's kind of the American way right now. Is it's funny, like when certain people are like, "Oh, I'm an Arsenal," or "I'm Real Madrid," or "I'm, you know, Bayern Munich," or something. You're like, well, you're kind of just picking that arbitrarily because no one, you know. So the American way is sort of watching it all. I mean, I'll watch the Boca River game. I'll watch, you know, Atletico Madrid. I'll watch Leeds. I'll watch anything and everything I can possibly get my hands on. So I love that. So Messi or Ronaldo?
So if I was in need of a goal scorer that I could count on in every situation, no matter what, it's 100% Cristiano Ronaldo. No question.
Right on.
If I need a playmaker, I'm going with Lionel Messi.
Right on.
Lionel Messi's a little bit more creative when he gets on the ball, where Cristiano is just, I'm going to get in the box. You put it anywhere near me, and I'm going to put it in the back of the net. And he's done it in Italy. He's done it in England. He's done it in Spain. He's now doing it in the Middle East.
That's right.
I mean, Messi did it in Spain for years.
Right.
Now he's gone to France, and he's not the same person.
No.
There's a lot of outside influences, you know, granted, but that's never bothered Cristiano Ronaldo. His mentality is a bit different than Lionel Messi's, but that's what makes, you know, these kind of debates so wonderful.
I love it.
I love hearing it, but, you know, I can't say one is better than the other. I will never say one is better than the other. I will say one is better at this, one is better at this. That's it.
Messi or Maradona?
Well, now, 40 years ago, Messi wouldn't have survived.
Right.
Because referees are more lenient. I mean, you look at Maradona, and, you know, I mean, he's jump kicking guys in the face.
Yep.
You know, UFC type knees, knocking guys out on the field during games. There really aren't any suspensions or fines. It's just a red card. Okay, you sit out your game, and then you're back. But then I don't know that Maradona would be as effective now, because he would be under the spotlight more.
Yeah.
You know, with if you read books about him, or you really dive into his history,
the social media alone might have killed him. Yeah.
Yeah, you look at the people that he was involved with, things that he was involved with, especially post-playing career.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
The difference in generation means so much. I don't know that I'd survive in Major League Soccer now because of how aggressive I was. So
that's right.
40 years ago, Maradona. Now, the last 10 years, Messi.
That's good. That's a good perspective. How about Ronaldo, as in Cristiano versus El Fenomeno?
Again, it's two different generations where El Fenomeno, the Brazilian Ronaldo, was just so powerful when he got the ball at his feet. You could try to foul him and bring him down at midfield, but it was all for naught. He was so strong.
Yeah.
And just as good at finishing as Ronaldo when he got in the box. And a lot of people are so caught up in who's playing currently and who's good currently that you tend to forget about the ones that came before that were just as good. Whereas Ronaldo, I mean, again, if he gets the ball out on the wing in a bunch of space against a slower defender, well, he's going to look like the Brazilian Ronaldo instead of the Portuguese Ronaldo. But it comes down to what you're looking for. This is the same thing with Messi versus Ronaldo currently. It comes down to what you're looking for. They're both beyond, and people might say, oh, that's a cop-out. You're not picking one over the other. No, you can't. I don't think you fairly can.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes sense to, but it's certainly worth an hour's worth of debate because you can get into that with those guys.
Yeah, I love it. And how about this is going to be even tougher for you, although maybe it won't be because of your history. Donovan or Dempsey?
Landon.
Got it, right?
Yeah.
That's for me. But you played with him, right? I mean, y'all are buds, right?
Yeah. Landon was just always even keel, level-headed, showed up when you needed him. Clint was very
mercurial,
very creative. He would do things and try things that you never expected.
Yep.
And a lot of times it would come off. But, he was similar to me in that he could lose his temper really quickly. That red mist could come down and you might lose him for 20 or 30 minutes,
which is a valuable asset as well. What you give any thought into your perfect 11? So for the listeners and watchers, this is name, if you could create any perfect 11 lineup from any era, any team, what would it be?
So I wrote this down and I scribbled a few out and I wrote it down and I kind of settled on.
I can't wait to hear it.
I saw the one that you guys sent yesterday.
Yeah, that was
a lot of more recent players where I'm old enough and to remember some of the older players, Lev Yashin in goal. I mean, this is the only goalkeeper to have ever won the Ballon d'Or.
Nice.
I mean,
love it.
Russian guy, crazy as all get out, but so good. Across the back, Paolo Maldini at left back.
Can't go. Yeah.
You can't go wrong there. Franz Beckenbauer.
Yep. Love it.
And Carlos Puyol. Puyol was the epitome of a captain and a leader and someone that you could always count on.
Yep.
At right back, it's got to be Dani Alves because of his ability not just to defend 1v1, but to get forward.
Yep.
And then I would throw Messi out on that left wing because Maldini doesn't need to attack. That was never his thing. So you got Messi out in that wide area. And in the middle, Maradona at 10, Zidane at 8, and you have to have a pit bull. Yep. Who's the ultimate pit bull? Gattuso.
I love it. I knew you were going to say that.
Yes. You got to have one guy.
I love that.
That's going to wreck shop and regulate when it needs to be done.
That's very on brand for you. And I'm a huge Gattuso guy. I love him. So
and then Ronaldo and Pelé up front. I don't, it's years past. The younger generations, probably a lot of them have never heard the name Pelé. And that stinks. I mean, I remember when I was in elementary school, I did a book report on him. I still remember his real name, Edson Arantes do Nascimento.
That's right.
And he was a guy before his time. I mean, he was just so creative and so brilliant. And given the world and the way it was and the racism that went on that unfortunately still shines its ugly head once and again, he was still just this shining light in the sport that so many people loved. And when he came here to the United States and played for the New York Cosmos for a couple years, people couldn't believe And I would have given anything to be able to go back and watch a couple of those games.
Yeah, he turned the world onto the sport.
Yeah. So that would be my 11. But I mean, there are so many other guys.
That's a killer. That's such a good one. How about your favorite jersey of all time?
My favorite jersey is probably the classic Real Madrid white, the full white kit.
Nice. Right on.
That just instills fear in opponents.
And very timely as well, right?
Yeah. It's never gotten old. It's always been there, and it always will be.
That's right. I love it. Well, Eddie, I think we're running out to this. Sand glass is running out. Thank you again profusely so much, man. I really appreciate it. I owe you big time. And again, wanted to just close with Eddie Robinson, the man, the myth, the legend, best I've ever traded dirt with. And it was an honor and a pleasure. And best to you and your family. And give me a holler next time you're in G-Borough. Yes,
sir. I will do it. Thanks a lot, Zach. I appreciate it. Grateful to be on. Grateful to share my stories. Glad you're doing this. Putting yourself out there. It's awesome, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie. So much, really appreciate it, man. Right. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, boss.
All right.
See you, buddy.
Later.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening in. Thank you, Eddie Robinson, so much for your time. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at the Center Mid Philosopher. Like the channel on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube. Subscribe, forward to your friends, and please make comments and questions, and even more so, send me great guest ideas, because I would love to talk to anyone and everyone out there that would love to talk about the world of soccer and their experiences in the beautiful game. Go out there and create beauty out of chaos. Be a positive impact on someone's lives. Support your teammates, your coworkers, your family. Put good karma out into the atmosphere, and do like a good center mid does and rip one on net. Thanks, guys.